I guess I should start by giving you a little background on my marriage with Hannah. We were together for over 7 years, and it felt like we were living the American dream, or at least that's what I thought. We had a cozy little house in a good neighborhood, both had decent jobs, and even managed to find time for the occasional getaway. I thought that meant we were solid, but looking back, I see I was blinded by what I wanted to believe. In recent months, things had started to feel off. Hannah had become distant, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. She'd get calls from her friends in the middle of the night, whispering like they were planning something secretive. I'd try to ask her about it, and she'd brush it off, saying, "Oh, it's just girl stuff. You wouldn't understand." That's a classic line, right? I let it slide, figuring women needed their space just like men do. Then there were the late nights at work. Every week it was something different. "I have to finish this project," or "we're having a team dinner." I tried to be supportive, but there was an itch in the back of my mind that I couldn't scratch. I knew I should have been more attentive, but life gets busy, you know. I kept convincing myself it was just a phase, that she was under stress. One particular evening, the air felt thick with tension. I came home from work earlier than usual, ready to surprise her with her favorite takeout. As I stepped through the door, I noticed her phone was buzzing on the kitchen counter. The screen lit up, flashing messages that were coming through. I hesitated for a moment and decided to have a quick peek, thinking she wouldn't mind, right? Wrong. The first message I saw was from some guy named Rob. "Can't wait to see you tonight, gorgeous. You looked incredible last night." My heart dropped. Who the hell was Rob? I hadn't heard about him before. I quickly scrolled through the messages and found a trail of them, each one more explicit than the last. They were planning to meet, discussing what they would do when they saw each other. I felt like I was hit by a freight train. I stood frozen, my mind racing. My heart was pounding in my chest, and the takeout bag slipped from my fingers, food spilling onto the floor. I could barely process what I had just read. My wife, the woman I thought I knew, was cheating on me. The betrayal sunk deep, and all I could think was how I was going to confront her. I didn't even have a plan. I just felt raw anger and the sting of disbelief. When she walked through the door an hour later, she had a smile on her face that I couldn't bear to look at. It was the kind of smile that had no idea about the storm that was brewing beneath the surface. "Hey babe, you're home early," she chirped, but I couldn't respond. I was too busy replaying those messages in my mind, so I confronted her. "Who's Rob?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, but it came out more like a growl. Her smile faded instantly, and for a moment I could see fear flicker in her eyes. "What do you mean?" she stuttered, playing innocent as if she was in some kind of twisted game. It was at that moment I wished I had recorded the whole thing, just to have the evidence of her lies. She came up with the most outrageous excuses, claiming it was a harmless work friend and that the messages were taken out of context. The more she spoke, the more I could see the cracks forming in her facade. I was furious, but it was also heartbreaking to watch someone I loved unravel so quickly under pressure. As she tried to explain herself, I felt my heart breaking a little more. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but I just stood there feeling numb. The whirlwind of emotions, anger, betrayal, confusion, swirled around in my mind. I never imagined I would be in this situation, that my own wife would betray me so easily. What did I want to do next? That was the question coursing through my mind as Hannah continued to spew her lies. I needed to think clearly, and I needed to decide what to do about this mess. The confrontation was a whirlwind of emotions, and as I watched Hannah's face shift from feigned innocence to a defensive rage, I realized just how deep the betrayal cut. I could see the lies written all over her features, and it made me feel sick. I told her to stop. I needed to breathe. "Look, I just saw the messages. They're pretty clear. You can't talk your way out of this." My voice was steadier now. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break down. I wanted her to see that I wasn't the fool she thought I was. She started crying, tears streaming down her face, and I hated myself for feeling even a hint of sympathy. "You don't understand. It's not what it looks like," she pleaded, but every excuse sounded weaker than the last. I didn't want to hear her pathetic attempts to rationalize her actions. I needed clarity. "Not what it looks like. I just read detailed plans for a rendezvous, Hannah. What do you call that?" I shot back. The anger bubbling inside me was hard to contain, and I was afraid of how far I might go if I didn't rein it in. After a while, she switched tactics. "It's not like that. You've been distant." I needed someone who could listen, someone who could be there for me. Her words struck a nerve. Wasn't that the crux of our issues? Somehow she twisted my feelings into a justification for her betrayal. I took a deep breath, trying to process it all. Maybe I had been distracted with work. Maybe I hadn't been the perfect husband I thought I was, but there was no way that justified her cheating. "You think I haven't noticed that you've been pulling away? You didn't even talk to me about it. Instead, you chose to sleep with someone else." At that moment, something inside me snapped. I was tired of her manipulation, her lying, and the way she made me feel responsible for her decisions. I couldn't do this anymore. This wasn't the woman I married. This was someone else entirely. I decided to take a moment to collect myself. "I need some time to think," I told her and walked out. I didn't want to be in the same room with her, to hear more excuses or pleas for forgiveness. I grabbed my keys and headed out to my car, my mind racing. I didn't know where to go, but I knew I couldn't stay there. Sitting in the driver's seat, I felt a mixture of anger and heartbreak. I turned on the engine but sat there for a while, staring off into space. I couldn't believe this was happening. I thought about all the good times we shared, the laughter, the moments that made me fall in love with her. Then I thought about the betrayal. It overshadowed everything. After a few minutes, I decided to drive to a nearby bar. I needed to be away from her, away from our home that felt so tainted now. As I pulled into the parking lot, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. The thought of pouring a drink down my throat felt like a good idea at that moment. Inside the bar, I ordered a whiskey neat and sank into a booth in the corner. As I sipped my drink, I felt the sting of betrayal clawing at my insides. I couldn't help but replay our confrontation in my mind. I wondered how many times she had lied to me, how many nights she had spent with that guy, Rob. The thought churned my stomach, and I downed another shot, hoping to drown the anger and sadness with alcohol. After a few drinks, I started to think about revenge. It felt wrong, but the idea of letting her get away with this infuriated me. I wanted her to feel the same pain she inflicted on me. I pictured how I could expose her, maybe even send those messages to her friends or family. After all, how could she have the audacity to cheat and then act like everything is fine? I spent the night tossing around different ideas in my head, each one more vengeful than the last, but I was ultimately lost in the storm of my emotions. I knew I had to make a decision soon, to stay and fight for what we had or to walk away and let the chips fall where they may. But what would it mean for me? Did I want to try to salvage our marriage, or was it time to cut my losses? The bar was starting to empty, and I knew I had to head back home eventually. Surrendering to the inevitable was hard, but I couldn't escape this reality. I had to confront my feelings about everything that had happened. I took one last swig of my drink, stood up, and headed out into the night. As I drove home, the world outside my car window blurred into a haze of lights and shadows. My thoughts were a storm of anger, betrayal, and confusion. I had to process what had just happened. I kept replaying every moment from that night, from the moment I found the messages to the confrontation with Hannah. Why had I let it get this far? Pulling into my driveway, I hesitated for a moment. I didn't want to face her again, didn't want to see that same look of feigned innocence, yet I knew I had to confront this head-on. I stepped inside, the house feeling different, colder. It was as if the walls were closing in on me, trapping me in this moment. Hannah was sitting on the couch, her eyes red from crying. It was hard to feel anything for her at that moment. I wanted to be angry, to shout, but instead I felt like I was standing on the precipice of a chasm, unsure if I should jump or pull back. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I never meant for it to go this far." "Didn't mean for it to go this far," I said, my voice trembling with anger. "You think sending nude photos to another guy is just a little slip-up. You've been lying to me for who knows how long, and now you're trying to downplay it." She looked down, unable to meet my gaze. I was lonely. I thought we were drifting apart. I just wanted someone to talk to. There she went again, turning the narrative back to me. It felt like she was trying to manipulate me into feeling sorry for her. Lonely. You think that's an excuse. You could have talked to me. We could have figured something out. But instead, you decided to betray me in the worst way possible. The hurt and betrayal in my voice were palpable, and I could see her flinch at my words. I never wanted to hurt you, she said, and for a moment I thought I saw genuine remorse in her eyes. But then I remembered the messages, how she excitedly planned to meet up with Rob and how she felt alive with him. The anger surged back. I felt like a fool, like I'd been played the entire time. Then why did you destroy everything we built? I asked, barely able to keep my voice steady. This isn't just a mistake, Hannah, this is a choice you made. She opened her mouth as if to respond, but then closed it, unable to find the words. I could see the realization dawning on her face that she had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. The truth hung heavy between us, suffocating. I don't know what to do, I said, finally breaking the silence. My voice was quieter now, filled with uncertainty. I don't think I can just forgive you and move on. You've shattered my trust. I'll do anything, she pleaded, desperation clear in her voice. I love you. I made a terrible mistake, but I want to fix this, please. That word, love, felt hollow at that moment. It was hard to reconcile the woman I loved with the person who had caused me such pain. But part of me wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that we could somehow salvage this, but the thought of Rob lingered in my mind, a specter haunting. Our marriage. I need time, I said, feeling drained. I didn't want to agree to anything in that moment, no decisions or promises. I needed to process this without her there, without her trying to convince me of her innocence. Time, she echoed, her voice breaking. But what if you decide you don't want me anymore? I have to figure out what I want, I replied, trying to keep my emotions in check. And right now, I don't know, I need to think. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving her sitting on the couch, a broken figure in the dim light of the living room. I went to our bedroom, closing the door behind me, and leaned against it, trying to catch my breath. The weight of the situation crashed down on me. I felt lost. My mind raced with thoughts of what my life would look like without her, and the thought terrified me. Hannah was my partner, my confidant, my love. Yet I also knew I couldn't let her manipulate me into thinking everything was okay just because she apologized. I took a deep breath and tried to gather my thoughts. I needed to decide what I wanted, but every option felt like a stab in the dark. I could fight for my marriage, but the idea of rebuilding trust felt monumental. Or I could walk away, cut my losses, and start anew, a terrifying prospect that left me feeling vulnerable and exposed. As I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I thought about the possibility of revenge. The idea had crossed my mind more than once, and it was tempting. Should I expose her? Should I take it to a level where she would feel the consequences of her actions? I pictured sending the messages to her family or friends, letting them know the truth. But would that really make me feel better, or would it just add more chaos to an already shattered situation? I rolled over, unable to sleep. The night stretched on, each passing hour filled with uncertainty. I knew I had to make a choice soon, but for now, all I could do was lay there in the dark, contemplating my next move. The next few days passed in a blur, a haze of emotions and sleepless nights. Hannah and I were living in the same house, but it felt like we were in different worlds. She would try to talk to me, to plead her case, but every time I heard her voice, it was like nails on a chalkboard. I had made a decision. I needed to take control of my narrative. I couldn't let her dictate the terms of our relationship anymore. I spent my days at work, going through the motions like a zombie, while my mind was consumed with thoughts of betrayal and revenge. I hated how much I still loved her, how part of me yearned for the memories of our happier times. But that love was tainted now. It felt like a betrayal in its own right to ignore the reality of what had happened. One evening, I finally decided I was ready to confront Hannah again. I had spent hours thinking about what I wanted to say, how I wanted to express the anger and hurt that had built up inside me. I knew that if I didn't do this, I would never be able to move forward, whether that meant salvaging our marriage or walking away. Hannah, I said as I walked into the living room, where she was glued to the TV trying to escape reality. She turned to look at me, her expression a mix of hope and fear. We need to talk. She nodded slowly, her eyes wide, and I gestured for her to sit. I've been thinking a lot about everything that's happened, and I need to know, do you actually want to fix this? Or are you just saying that because you want to keep me around? I want to fix this, she said quickly, almost too quickly. I love you and I miss us. I'm so sorry and I promise it won't happen again. She hesitated and I could see that she was searching for the right words. I got caught up in my own insecurities and I thought what? I interrupted. That cheating was the answer, that sleeping with another guy would somehow make you feel better about yourself. She flinched at my words. No, it was a stupid mistake. I thought I could handle it without hurting you. I didn't expect to develop feelings for him, it just happened. That stung. I could feel my heart breaking all over again. So you thought it was fine to just have a fling because of your insecurities. What's to stop you from doing it again? I don't know, I messed up. I realize now how dumb that was, how I took you for granted. Please, I want to make this work, she said, her voice breaking. I can't imagine my life without you. I love you and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix this. Even if that means going to couples therapy, even if that means doing the hard work. I pushed. I needed to know if she was serious or just saying what she thought I wanted to hear. Yes, absolutely. I'll do anything. I'll be open and honest and I'll make sure you have everything you need to rebuild trust, she said, a fire igniting in her eyes. I took a deep breath, grappling with the idea of reconciliation. I wanted to believe her, but I was scared. What if I can't forgive you? What if I can't forget? Hannah's expression fell for a moment and I could see the fear in her eyes. I understand if you need time, but please give us a chance to work on this together. I can't lose you. Something shifted inside me. I wanted to scream, you already lost me. But I also recognized that the love I felt for her was still there, buried beneath layers of hurt. I decided it was time to get practical instead of emotional. Let's take it step by step. I can't promise I'll forgive you overnight, but I'm willing to try if you're serious about this. She nodded vigorously, her face lighting up with hope. I am serious. I want to do this. We spent the next hour talking about how we could start to rebuild our relationship. It was awkward and painful. I set boundaries, insisting that she cut off all contact with Rob and that we both commit to weekly therapy sessions. I could see the weight of my words sinking in, and while part of me felt relief that we were making progress, another part of me was terrified. As I walked away from that conversation, I felt a flicker of hope mingled with doubt. I didn't know how long it would take to heal, or if it was even possible, but I was willing to give it a shot. In the days that followed, we began attending therapy as a couple. It felt like a necessary step, but it was painful. Each session forced us to confront issues we had both ignored for years. We talked about our communication, our differences, and most importantly, the foundations of trust that had been shattered. Hannah was trying, and I could see the effort she was putting in. She started being more open about her feelings and vulnerabilities. It was refreshing, but it also felt like a double-edged sword. I wanted to trust her, but every time she reached for her phone, a wave of anxiety washed over me. One night, after a particularly intense therapy session, I found myself lying in bed, wide awake while she slept next to me. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. Despite her efforts, I felt like I was walking on a tightrope. I loved her, but could love truly conquer this kind of betrayal? The question nagged at me, and I felt the weight of it pressing down. Maybe some things could be fixed, but trust was hard to rebuild once broken. I had to figure out whether I was willing to risk my heart again. I knew I needed to make a decision soon, but the answer eluded me. I turned over, trying to find a comfortable position to sleep, but my mind was racing. I had to figure out if I could truly forgive her or if I was just prolonging the inevitable. Either way, I knew that the next steps would define not just our relationship but myself as well. As the weeks dragged on, I found myself caught in a constant battle between hope and skepticism. Each therapy session brought a flood of emotions, and while I could see Hannah working hard to prove herself, the ghosts of her betrayal never really left me. I felt as if I were living in a fragile glass house. One wrong move could shatter everything. Hannah was putting in the effort. She was more open about her feelings, attending every therapy session with enthusiasm, and making gestures to show she was committed to repairing our relationship. She took on extra chores around the house, planned date nights, and even started texting me sweet messages during the day. But every time I saw her phone light up with a message, a wave of jealousy would wash over me. The nagging doubt about her fidelity lingered like a shadow, refusing to fade. One evening, while making dinner, I overheard her on the phone. She was talking to one of her friends, and for a moment I was tempted to eavesdrop. The way she laughed, the tone of her voice, it sounded different, lighter. I was hit with a mix of emotions. Was she genuinely happy, or was she just putting on a show? I tried to shake off my jealousy and focus on the task at hand, but my mind was racing. I couldn't help but wonder if she was talking about me, about our progress, or if she was venting about the situation. Deep down, I felt like I had to know, but I also knew that snooping would only lead to more heartache. I wanted to trust her, but I was still grappling with the betrayal. Later that night, as we sat down for dinner, I decided to bring it up. "Hey, I heard you on the phone earlier." She froze for a second, and I could see her processing my words. "Oh, yeah. I was just talking to Lisa about our therapy sessions. She's been so supportive during all this." "Really? Just therapy?" I asked, trying to keep my tone even. "Yeah, that's it," she replied, her words laced with an edge of defensiveness. "I know it's hard for you, and I want to be open about everything." I nodded, but a part of me wasn't convinced. "Look, I just don't want you to feel like you're putting on a show for me. I need to know you're being honest." Hannah sighed, her shoulders slumping. "I'm trying, I really am. I don't want to hide anything from you. You know how hard this has been for me, too." I could see the strain in her eyes, and it broke my heart to watch. In that moment, something shifted within me. I realized that while I was still struggling to forgive her, I had also been holding her hostage to my doubts. It was like I was punishing her for a crime that had already been committed. After dinner, we snuggled up on the couch to watch a movie, and for a brief moment, I felt a flicker of the old comfort we used to share. As I wrapped my arm around her, I felt warmth, but it was quickly overshadowed by the nagging thought of Rob. Was this really going to work? Could we truly get past this? Then one afternoon after work, I came home to find Hannah sitting on the couch, her phone in hand, her face pale. "We need to talk," she said, her voice shaky. My heart sank. "What now?" "I just got a message from Rob," she said, her eyes wide with fear. "He wants to meet up again." "What? Why would he think that's okay?" I shot back, my anger flaring. "Didn't you block him?" "I thought I did. I don't know how he got my number again. I swear I didn't respond." "Let me see the message," I demanded, my hands shaking. She handed me her phone, and I read the message, my heart racing. It was an invitation to meet up, nothing more, but the implication was clear. The betrayal rushed back, and I felt like I was suffocating. "This is exactly what I was afraid of," I said through gritted teeth. "You've been trying to move on, and now he's trying to worm his way back into your life." "No, it's not like that. Please." I've cut him off, I swear, she pleaded, desperation lining her voice. "Then block him again. This is unacceptable." "I will. I'll block him, delete his number, everything. I just need you to trust me." Trust. That word again. I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on the edge of a cliff. Any misstep could lead to disaster, and the ground felt unsteady beneath my feet. "I don't know if I can keep doing this," I said, my voice breaking. "It feels like you're still holding on to him, and I can't deal with it." Hannah's face crumpled, and I felt a pang of guilt. "Please don't say that. I'm trying so hard to make this work. I'm terrified of losing you." The reality of the situation hit me all at once. I was at a crossroads, and I had to decide if I was willing to put in the work to repair our relationship, or if it was time to walk away for good. The thought of separating from her felt agonizing, but the thought of constantly living in doubt was equally unbearable. In that moment, I made up my mind. "I don't want to give up on us, but we need to set some clear boundaries. If you want this to work, you have to cut all ties with him, no exceptions." She nodded vigorously, tears brimming in her eyes. "I promise, I'll do whatever it takes." I took a deep breath, trying to find some semblance of strength within me. I didn't want to let her down, but I also couldn't ignore my own feelings. "Let's take it one day at a time, okay? I'll try to trust you, but you need to meet me halfway." "Thank you," she said, relief flooding her voice. As we sat together, I realized that while the path ahead was uncertain, it was a path I was willing to fight for. I didn't know if we would make it, but I knew I wouldn't stop trying. I had to believe that love, though battered and bruised, could find its way back. The journey was just beginning, and I finally felt like I had enough courage to face it head-on. The weeks turned into months, and while the healing process was slow, I could feel a shift in our relationship. We continued our therapy sessions, which became a cornerstone for us. It was a safe space to air our grievances and explore the depths of our emotions, and I found myself opening up more than I ever thought possible. Each session unearthed new layers of our issues, but it also revealed new depths of understanding and compassion. Hannah had made it a point to show her commitment to our marriage. She cut off all communication with Rob and even went as far as to change her number. I was proud of her for taking those steps. It showed me she was serious about wanting to repair the damage. But still, trust was not something that could be rebuilt overnight. One evening, as we were lying in bed, I turned to her and said, "You know, I think I'm finally starting to believe that we can make it through this." She looked at me, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "Really, you mean it?" "Yeah, I'm learning to trust again, but it's going to take time. I need you to be patient with me." "Always," she replied, and for the first time in a long time I felt the warmth of her love wrap around me like a blanket. It was comforting, yet I was still aware of the scars that remained. Our date nights became a ritual, a way to reconnect and rediscover each other. We did the things we used to love, visiting our favorite restaurants, going for long walks, and laughing at inside jokes. It was as if we were trying to rewrite our history, building new memories on the old foundation that had cracked but not completely crumbled. However, there were still moments of tension. Sometimes, I would catch her staring off into space, lost in thought, and I'd wonder if she was thinking about her betrayal. I would feel a rush of jealousy, but then I reminded myself of all the progress we had made. I didn't want to let those dark thoughts sabotage what we were rebuilding. One day, Hannah suggested we go hiking, a favorite pastime of ours. The sun was shining, and the weather was perfect for it. As we walked along the trail, the beauty of nature surrounded us, and I felt a sense of peace wash over me. It was a reminder of why I fell in love with her in the first place and how much I wanted to keep that love alive. "Do you remember the time we got lost on this trail?" she asked, laughing. "We thought we were going to have to camp out overnight." I chuckled at the memory. "Yeah, and we ended up wandering in circles for hours, but we made the best of it, didn't we?" "Exactly," she replied, her eyes sparkling. "We found our way back together, that's what matters." As we reached a viewpoint overlooking a stunning vista, I took a moment to breathe it all in. "You know," I said, "this feels like us. It's beautiful, but we still have a long way to go, but I'm willing to keep pushing forward just like we did that day." Hannah nodded, her expression serious yet hopeful. "I'm committed to this. I'll spend every day proving to you that I'm not the same person I was. I won't let you down." Again, with each passing day, I found myself believing in us more and more. We were both learning, growing, and finding ways to communicate better. I was finally understanding how to express my feelings without letting bitterness take over. There was still work to be done, and I knew that we weren't out of the woods yet, but I felt a newfound sense of strength. Then came the day we hit a big milestone, our first anniversary after the affair. It was a bittersweet moment, a reminder of the pain we had endured, but also a celebration of the love we were nurturing. We decided to go back to the same restaurant where we had celebrated our wedding. As we sat at our table, I looked into her eyes and saw a reflection of the woman I had fallen in love with. "You know, I think this year has taught me a lot," I said, reaching for her hand. "I've learned that love isn't just about the good times, it's about weathering the storms together." Tears welled up in her eyes, and she squeezed my hand. "I'm so grateful for your forgiveness and your willingness to work on this. I love you so much, and I'm committed to making this work for the long haul." We shared our meal, laughter punctuating the air as we reminisced and created new memories. I realized that while the scars of betrayal would always remain, they served as a reminder of how far we had come. As we walked back to the car, I felt an overwhelming sense of hope. We had faced the dark side of love and emerged stronger, more resilient. I knew that the road ahead would still have its challenges, but I was ready to face them with Hannah by my side. Life would never be the same, but perhaps that wasn't such a bad thing. We had the chance to rebuild, to redefine what love meant to us. In that moment, I understood that love isn't merely about avoiding pain. It's about learning, growing, and finding strength in each other. And as we drove home under the stars, I realized that while the journey was far from over, I finally felt like I was heading in the right direction.